Why the dinosaur myth refuses to die. The mechanisms that sustain this misconception operate through powerful psychological forces that most people never recognize. Children absorb the dinosaur connection during their most formative years. When developing brains accept information from trusted sources without critical analysis. Picture a 5-year-old flipping through a colorful picture book showing friendly cartoon dinosaurs standing next to gas pumps with simple captions explaining how these ancient creatures became the fuel in cars. The child's mind creates neural pathways connecting dinosaurs with gasoline, establishing associations that become deeply embedded before any formal scientific education begins. These early impressions prove remarkably resistant to later correction because they form during what psychologists call the critical period for concept acquisition. The human brain treats information learned during these early years as foundational truth, making it extremely difficult to overwrite these concepts even when presented with overwhelming scientific evidence. Adults who learned the dinosaur myth as children often experience cognitive dissonance when confronted with petroleum's actual marine origins, leading them to reject accurate information rather than restructure their fundamental understanding. The educational system inadvertently reinforces this misconception through oversimplified explanations that teachers use to make complex geological concepts accessible to young students. Elementary school educators, who themselves often learned the dinosaur myth during childhood, perpetuate the cycle by using dinosaur imagery to explain fossil fuels without understanding the scientific inaccuracy of this connection. Science textbooks designed for younger audiences frequently include illustrations showing dinosaurs transforming into oil, creating official-seeming confirmation that carries the authority of institutional education. Popular media continues amplifying the dinosaur oil connection through countless movies, television shows, documentaries, and news reports that casually mention dinosaur-derived petroleum without fact-checking this claim. Writers and producers use the dinosaur explanation because it provides a simple, memorable narrative that audiences can easily understand and remember. The entertainment industry's massive reach means millions of people encounter reinforcement of this myth multiple times throughout their lives, creating repeated exposure that strengthens the false neural pathways originally formed during childhood. The term fossil fuels creates a linguistic trap that makes the dinosaur myth seem scientifically plausible to people who don't understand the technical definition of fossils in geological contexts. Most people associate the word fossil exclusively with dinosaur bones displayed in natural history museums, so when they hear about fossil fuels, their minds automatically connect petroleum with prehistoric reptiles. This terminology provides the dinosaur myth with apparent scientific legitimacy because people assume scientists wouldn't use the term fossil unless oil actually came from the same sources as museum dinosaur displays. Cognitive biases compound the challenge of correcting the dinosaur myth because human psychology includes built-in resistance mechanisms that protect existing beliefs from contradictory evidence. Confirmation bias leads people to seek information that supports their pre-existing beliefs while avoiding or dismissing facts that challenge their worldview. When someone who learned the dinosaur myth encounters scientific explanations about marine microorganisms, their brain tends to focus on any ambiguous details that might preserve the dinosaur connection while ignoring overwhelming evidence for petroleum's actual origins. The availability heuristic reinforces the myth because dinosaur imagery appears far more frequently in popular culture than accurate information about ancient marine ecosystems. People judge the probability of events based on how easily they can recall examples, and since everyone can instantly visualize dinosaurs while few people can picture Carboniferous period algae blooms, the dinosaur explanation seems more plausible despite being completely false. This mental shortcut leads people to trust familiar but incorrect information over unfamiliar but accurate scientific facts. Social proof perpetuates the misconception through the psychological tendency to accept beliefs that appear widely shared by others. When someone hears friends, family members, teachers, and media personalities all repeating the dinosaur myth, they assume this consensus indicates accuracy rather than recognizing it as evidence of successful marketing propagation. The apparent universality of the belief creates social pressure to conform rather than question what seems like commonly accepted knowledge. Educational initiatives attempting to correct the dinosaur myth face enormous challenges because they must overcome decades of reinforcement while competing against ongoing media perpetuation of the false narrative. Science educators report that students often react with skepticism or resistance when told that oil doesn't come from dinosaurs, viewing accurate information as contradicting everything they've previously learned. These correction efforts require substantial time and energy to dismantle existing misconceptions before building accurate understanding of petroleum formation processes. Modern information environments present additional challenges for myth correction because people can easily find online content that reinforces their existing beliefs while avoiding contradictory information. Social media algorithms amplify this effect by showing users content similar to what they've previously engaged with, creating echo chambers where the dinosaur myth receives continuous reinforcement. The democratization of information publishing means that inaccurate content often appears alongside legitimate scientific sources, making it difficult for non-experts to distinguish between reliable and unreliable information. The persistence of this particular myth highlights the critical importance of media literacy education that teaches people to question information sources, especially when commercial interests might influence the messaging. Understanding how a single corporation manufactured the dinosaur petroleum connection provides a framework for evaluating other widely accepted beliefs that might reflect marketing influence rather than scientific accuracy. This recognition empowers people to approach information more critically and seek out primary scientific sources rather than accepting simplified explanations that might serve commercial rather than educational purposes. The same psychological mechanisms that keep this petroleum misconception alive also support other false beliefs about complex scientific topics, suggesting that effective education must address both factual content and the psychological factors that make people resistant to updating their understanding when presented with contradictory evidence. But stepping back from these psychological forces reveals something remarkable about what we've actually discovered. The complete picture of petroleum formation reveals how marine microorganisms created our modern energy foundation through processes that began 250 million years before dinosaurs ever existed. These microscopic algae and zooplankton, living in ancient seas during the Carboniferous and Permian periods, accumulated in numbers that dwarf any terrestrial animal populations and transformed through precise geological conditions into the oil that powers civilization today. This reality demonstrates how a single corporation's marketing campaign successfully overwrote scientific understanding in public consciousness for nearly a century. The persistence of the dinosaur myth shows how corporate messaging can fundamentally shape what billions of people believe about natural processes. Next time you hear fossil fuels, remember the ancient algae, not dinosaurs. Share this myth-busting video to spread the truth.